Hi, Brett Elliott, Herbalist. Now's the time to change your life. Hello, welcome along. If you can hear me, just say hello, and maybe just say hello, I'm here, or something like that. If you can hear us okay. Big thank you for tuning up. I don't know where you are, but in New Zealand it's pretty cold tonight, so I appreciate your time coming along, having a listen to us. I've got my wife Sarah on the chat facility, so if you've got any questions, type them in there. She'll do her best to give you an answer. Tonight we're going to give you some new information, hopefully things you haven't heard before, and we're going to offer you a couple of gifts, a special offer, and right at the end we'll give you a special deal on what we're offering tonight. So tonight we're offering you information. It's a groundbreaking concept that you probably haven't heard before. It's about what they're not telling us, what's the biggest health problem that we're facing in the world today, and what we can do about it. So the idea behind the webinar tonight is really to empower you, to give you tools that you can use yourself to help to heal yourself, but also to prevent health problems from occurring. There's a lot of information out there. You probably see it all the time on the internet, radio and television. And a lot of it you don't know if you can really trust or believe. And this is a little bit what we're going to talk about tonight, is how we're being a little bit led astray. Social media is even worse. People have opinions and all kinds of information is put out there with absolutely nothing to back it up. So I just want to reassure you tonight that everything we say is backed up by scientific evidence and research, and we will be providing you with that at the end. We will actually send you the links to all the information and research that we've done to back up what we're saying. Basically, the internet is the same as everything else. You can't trust anything you read on the internet unless you can find solid evidence to back it up. Most of it is opinion. It's the same as what's published in newspapers, magazines, and that kind of thing. It's very, very dangerous. And also our health system, you've got to be careful there too, because it's funded by Big Pharma and the government, and they have a kind of a partnership, really, because there's a huge amount of money going into the research of these drugs and the funding and support behind it. And there's a lot of propaganda, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. Also, I guess what people do is you end up searching for yourself, and you go to health stores, go to health practitioners, and you look for solutions for yourself. This is also quite a very dangerous area because, again, the industry is under-regulated. You don't know who you can trust. So I guess you're familiar with the story. You know what I'm talking about. And the health system is absolutely overloaded and unable to cope with an escalating crisis. It's around the world, all over the world, there's an escalating crisis of chronic degenerative diseases, and we're unable to keep up with the demand. And it's a big business. It's a big, big industry, multi-trillion-dollar industry around the world, and pharmaceutical companies are making truckloads of money out of it. So we have to be very careful about who we believe. And I guess that's what tonight is about. I want to give you some solid information, something that you can use, something that you can apply in your lives and avoid potential disasters that can happen to family, friends, yourself, and whatever predicament you might be in, the potential to reverse problems that may have already started. So that was just a bit of an introduction, the background to why we're doing what we're doing, really. I've been a medical herbalist now for 20 years, and so just a little bit about my background. I got into practice as a herbalist out of a passion to help people because of my own experiences with the health system. So I opened a medical practice, and I ran a shop and a herbalist dispensary, which I opened up in 1997. I really have a passion for helping people find alternatives that they can trust. And this is what it's all about, really. Here's my wife and I, Sarah, in Rotorua in the Redwoods. Sarah's on the other line answering your questions. And these are my children, 4 boys. And this is my backyard in Tauranga. So over that period of time, the last 20 years or so, I've had 100,000 people now complete our program, would you believe it, in 45 countries, which is amazing. Really, that's the power of the internet. And I've seen about 20,000 people through my shop and clinic over that time as well. So just to let you know, really, that we've got a bit of experience with the health problems that are out there. And so we want to share some information with you tonight that we've picked up along the way. So what you're going to learn tonight, what's actually causing the biggest health problems of our time? This is something that is, I guess, a bit of a mystery to the system, because they're not really ultimately treating the causes. They're treating the diseases themselves, or trying to treat the diseases and cover the symptoms. Also, what you'll learn is how we can reverse this massive epidemic that we're facing and what that massive epidemic is. And then thirdly, how you can use home remedies and food and herbs to maintain optimal health, to stay healthy and not get sick in the first place. Even if you have got something or a condition, also how you can reverse it. So we're going to go through those things tonight. So thanks for coming along. What is the biggest health epidemic in history? Any ideas on that? Go ahead and type them in. I'll be interested to know what you think. You might think of, I don't know, AIDS, Ebola, some of the flus that have been around, malaria, things like that. Those are infectious diseases, and those aren't actually the biggest epidemic in history. None of those. What we're talking about is something that is systemic in our lifestyle and our society, something that is behind the scenes, is creeping up on us all. And you may have heard of some of these things yourself. So put your hand up if someone in your family has had a heart attack, stroke, members of your family or friends, diabetes, cancer. So those 4 things I've just mentioned are the biggest killers. They basically take out the majority of us when we get older. Unfortunately, some of us are having these problems now when we're a lot younger than we used to. But that's not the biggest epidemic. So those are the biggest killers, but they're not the biggest epidemic. The leading causes of death we just mentioned: cancer, heart disease, stroke. You can see this chart, 8.2 million cancer deaths. And then it comes down to respiratory diseases, 3.1 million of those 2 there, tracheal and bronchial and lung cancer. And then down below you have got AIDS in there, and then some infectious disease, and diabetes. That's another big one. So you can see the biggest ones by far are the cancer, heart disease and stroke, and the lung diseases. But still, we're still talking about causes of death. So that's not the biggest epidemic in history. What is actually causing these disasters to happen? What is causing these fatal diseases to strike the population in such alarming amounts? That's what the biggest epidemic is. And I'll get to it in just 1 second. Here you can see the causes of cancer. Just run your eye briefly over that list there. And you can see a lot of these are preventable. Tobacco, weight gain, diet, exercise, occupation. Then you've got viruses, alcohol, drugs, pollution. You see all those things on the list there. They are the most common causes of cancer. And you total that list up and you get 100% of the causes of cancer. But the biggest epidemic in the world, in fact, the biggest epidemic in history, is called metabolic syndrome. Now, if we just flick back to that list that causes cancer, you'll see some of the things there that we can avoid: tobacco, diet, alcohol, drugs, pollution. What's actually causing those conditions to get out of control. Metabolic syndrome. Now, metabolic syndrome is a combination of 4 things, and 1/4 of the world's adults have metabolic disease or metabolic syndrome. And it's a combination of these: cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, and obesity. Again, you must know someone that's had these problems: raised cholesterol, raised blood pressure, or blood sugar, or weight gain. These things, when you've got 2 or more, you're classified as having metabolic syndrome or metabolic disease. So just backing up what we've talked about so far, the leading causes of death: cancer, heart disease, stroke, and respiratory diseases, and diabetes. And then the biggest epidemic in history, metabolic syndrome. So there's an interesting link that we haven't quite made yet, but there's a link between these causes of death and the metabolic disease that 1/4 of the world's adults have, 1 billion of us. And that's what we're going to do now, is connect these together. What's causing the metabolic syndrome and what's causing the leading causes of death? Metabolic syndrome, the problem with metabolic syndrome, you'll see it in that paragraph there under the number 2. It's a cluster of the most dangerous heart attack risk factors. So in other words, if you have blood sugar, cholesterol, and blood pressure, you're very, very likely going to end up having heart disease, stroke. But we also end up with cancer as a result. And what are we doing about it? We're prescribing 4 billion prescriptions every year. So someone in your family, in your household, your friends, taking prescription drugs, what do you think they're probably taking them for? Probably some of those things we've already talked about: the cholesterol, the blood sugar, the diabetes. Okay, so this is what we're doing. We're prescribing drugs to people for those problems. And those drugs are the most widely prescribed drugs on the market. Trillions of dollars worth of these drugs are being peddled out to the population for that problem. The problem is with drugs is that over a period of time you end up with drug toxicity. And that happens because the drug is an unnatural substance. The drug is interfering with the body's metabolism in some way, and the drug has got byproducts that the body struggles to eliminate. And they say that the drugs are non-toxic, but it's not true. And we've been hearing about it in the news lately. Painkillers, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs and painkillers increase your risk of heart attack up to 50%. So the drugs are toxic. And it's not the solution. They're not treating the actual problem, rather trying to fool the body after the fact into thinking that it's okay, when underneath the problem is still there. The metabolic syndrome. What's causing the metabolic syndrome? That's what we need to get to. Not call an ambulance, which is what happens. So this is a sad story. It is what happens. And I've just got a little story of my own. You know, I was in my early 20s. I started work when I was 16 years old in a labouring job and was laying gas lines. And I did that until I was 25. And I busted my spine, basically. I ruptured 3 discs in my lower back. And I worked on and on and on, not knowing I'd done it until it was too late. So I was offered surgery. And the surgeon was quite scary because he basically said, "We need you in the surgery next week." And he was out with a scalpel and he was quite frightening. And I was 25 and I thought, isn't there another way? Can't I heal myself? Isn't there something natural I could do? You know, I didn't want that surgery. And he said, "No, you're wasting your time. It's all a load of rubbish. There's no alternative." And so I went and searched the library and I found healing books and herbal medicine books and I started reading. And so now 25 years later, my back is fine. It's totally healed. So really, that's what this comes down to tonight. You can heal yourself. You don't need to take the drugs. You don't need to have drastic measures. You can do things to heal yourself, and that's what this is all about, getting back to health. And just a little bit about health. Health is a state of peace and balance in the body. It's the first thing you learn in anatomy and physiology is the word homeostasis. Homeostasis means balance. So what the body does is it constantly tries to balance itself to stay healthy. Every chemical process in your body is one of trying to maintain equilibrium and balance. And that's what health is. It's a state of peace. Just think about that for a second. If you don't have peace in your body, something's wrong. So the moment you feel stress, tension, discomfort, pain, anything like that, there's something out of balance in your body and you're losing the state of health. And so this metabolic syndrome, what's actually causing it? The cholesterol, the blood pressure, the high blood sugar, the weight gain, all of those things that lead to the biggest killer, the biggest epidemic in history. That's taking out, I don't know, it's over 80%, close to 90% of the population. In our country, we have 40% of us potentially have pre-diabetes. It's massive, it's out of control, and it's affecting the children. Now I want to introduce a term here, metabolic toxicity. So it's toxicity. Remember the chart for cancer where it said smoking, pollution, drugs, diet, all of these things potentially cause cancer? Aren't those toxins? Carcinogens are part of it. Pollutants, chemicals, all of those things affecting our metabolism. And our metabolism is tens of thousands of chemical reactions that are taking place in our body every second. It's a very fine, delicate process. All of those chemical reactions are taking place in order to try and maintain homeostasis or balance. And what do? We throw stuff into our bodies continuously. We continuously bombard ourselves with artificial, processed, chemically made food, and we're exposed in our homes and workplaces. And that causes the metabolism to become toxic, overloaded with substances that it can't deal with. And the skeptics will say, oh, no, your liver can do it. Oh, your kidneys will do it. Your body's designed for it. Well, no, it's not. It's not designed for the world that we put ourselves into. It's not designed for the workplaces, the cars, the environments that we live in. And it's not designed for the drugs and the foods and the chemicals that we throw at ourselves every day. So what do we need? We need a detox. So a toxin is something that's poison to your metabolism, something that interferes with your metabolism. And I've just got the definition of the word toxin here. A toxic substance, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is a poisonous, the dumping of toxic waste. Alcohol is toxic to the ovaries, relating to or caused by poison, toxic hazards, toxic liver injury, very bad, unpleasant or harmful, a toxic relationship. So even relationships can be toxic. On the bright side, the word detox by the Oxford Dictionary once again. A process or a period of time in which one abstains from or rids the body of toxic or unhealthy substances called detoxification. And that's the term we use as a medical herbalist, we use it in herbal medicine, detoxification, or detox for short. So that's a time or a period of time where we abstain from those substances and we aid in their elimination. And we'll talk about that again soon. Let's just go back to the toxins and how they're affecting us. There's several places that these toxins come from. Our foods, so the sugars and fats and processed food additives. The drugs, we talked about the pharmaceuticals. The pollution and the environmental things. And we've also got cleaning and cosmetics and other things that we add to our bodies. Then we've got our lifestyle and our stresses. We all know about that. But how do these things cause metabolic disease? Well, when you overload your body with sugars and fats, especially the processed fats, the trans fats and the refined sugars and the artificial sugars that they use a lot now. So you've got your dextrose and things like that, artificial flavorings and colorings and additives. So the food is toxic in a sense. It will cause the digestive system to struggle. It's lacking enzymes, it's lacking nutrients and minerals and things that your body needs to digest. And it's firing into the bloodstream loads and loads of fat, sugar, and chemicals. So this is what a lot of us do, and it's because of our lifestyles. It's inevitable because it's put in front of us and advertised to us so heavily. So the processed food industry throws all of these things. There's thousands of chemicals added. There's 145,000 registered chemicals. There's 60 million chemicals worldwide, and there's 145,000 that are registered. So that means a lot of these chemicals are unregistered. And we don't often know the results of these things in these foods for decades until they find out later on. Meats and processed meats can be the worst foods for your body. They contain hydrocarbons, polycyclic hydrocarbons, nitrous compounds, and they're cancer-causing. And you might have heard in the news about bacon, sausages and things like that. Salami is another one. But red meat in itself is very, very hard on your body. It's very acidic. So it's good to avoid. In fact, it's good to avoid meat altogether, but if you are having fish or chicken, is a bit easier on your body. So food toxicity is one area. And these are some of the signs. If you're having too much of this type of food, you start to get irritated digestive problems. So bloating and gas and wind and irritable bowel and indigestion and acid reflux and all of those things, constipation. So if you've got any of these signs, well, it's absolutely a sign of food, what we call food toxicity. So changing your diet and a detox diet can solve a lot of these problems fairly quickly. And then we move on to the pharmaceuticals. Now, the pharmaceuticals are what we talked about before, artificial chemicals that are designed to interfere or block or trick your metabolism in some way. And they do it chemically and artificially with concentrated nutrients which are poisonous. And that's why the doses are controlled so vigilantly, because an overdose of drugs, as we all know, with the likes of Elvis Presley and Michael Jackson and, more recently with Prince and people like that, that pharmaceutical drugs kill thousands and thousands of people around the world. In fact, there's a figure there, 328,000 in the US and Europe, and that's every year. So we only hear about the big stars. We don't hear about the millions of others. And that's because the pharmaceutical industry is, like we said before, and it's a big, big business. There's a lot of the studies and trials, and a lot of those reports of drug toxins, toxicity and deaths aren't actually reported to the FDA. And that's coming out in studies now. They're showing that this is the case. We can't trust the actual pharmaceutical industry anymore. The big problem with drugs, of course, is that they poison the liver. Primarily, it's the liver that gives out. And interestingly enough, it's the liver that controls most of your metabolic functions, so your blood sugar, your cholesterol, and obviously your pancreas is involved there too, but your liver is the primary organ that controls 250 different functions in your body's metabolism. It's huge. So your metabolic disease ultimately comes down to your liver. So what are the alternatives? Well, we're going to talk about that in just a minute. There are options, and that's what we want to give you. And there are options you can trust. There's what I'm going to give you tonight is guaranteed. So I'll give you a guarantee on what we're going to give you. It's important. You need to be confident with what you're doing. There is a couple more bad things just to run through quickly. Now, pollution, the air we breathe is a big one. And we all know about sprays and the industrial farming and how it's affecting the waterways. But the striking anomaly here is when you look at the heart disease, stroke, lung diseases and cancer, these are the same diseases caused by pollution that are reflected in the biggest causes of death that we talked about earlier. Isn't that funny? Well, it's not funny really, but isn't it? Yep, we all know about the waterways. Now, something you probably don't know about the waterways is the chlorine. The chlorine causes 13,000 cases of cancer per year, and that's primarily bladder and rectal cancer. So, yeah, water. Good if you can get spring water or really well filtered water. And then we've got mercury in our teeth. I think they've stopped using it some time ago, but obviously a lot of us older people have mercury in our teeth. And unfortunately, getting it out is not always the absolute solution. They have found in the lungs, kidneys, endocrine organs, liver and heart, mercury stays in the body after the fillings have been removed. So you need to get chelation done to get that out if you have had mercury fillings. And there's some of the symptoms on the left-hand side there of mercury toxicity. So also very, very common symptoms. And then we've got lead. Now, lead accumulates. It's a poison, and it accumulates in the kidney, liver, nervous system, and so on. And cadmium. Now, cadmium can be found in cigarette smoke, but it can also be found in bore water. So you've got to be careful with bore water. And if you get any of those symptoms there, it could be a sign of cadmium poisoning. All right, so it's not all bad news. We have got some good news coming up. So you're probably feeling a bit like this guy at the moment. I certainly would be if you haven't heard all that before. The reason he's like this is he's got a hangover. And you're probably familiar with the term. When you have a hangover, it means you haven't detoxed from the night before. Your body is still recovering. Your metabolism's been thrown out so far that you feel like death warmed up in the morning. And so what's happened here is your body hasn't detoxed and your metabolism hasn't returned to normal. And the most important thing about sleep at night is that there's a period of deep sleep that your body uses to heal. And that's when you do your healing and your regeneration. And that's why when you're sick, you sleep and sleep and sleep, because your body does all of its healing and regeneration during sleep. If you wake up feeling like you've got a hangover, you haven't done any healing and you haven't done any regeneration. All your body's done is detox, detox, detox. And if you wake up with that feeling of a hangover in the morning, your body is still detoxing. So that's an interesting thing to be aware of. You should wake up bright and fresh and having grown new cells in your body and bursting into life in the morning, because your body is detoxed for a couple of hours and then it's gone into healing and renewal and growth. And that's what we want. That's what we want to encourage you to realize tonight, is that once you've detoxed your body, you can heal. And that's the secret to healing. So just a couple more things before we get to the good stuff. Remember, we've got chemicals in our homes. We use cleaning agents. We use makeup and all sorts of, body care products that we put on our skin. It's best to use natural, not chemically made home products as well. So eco-friendly, all of those sorts of things. It's really important because these are carcinogens and they interfere with the endocrine functions in your body, the hormonal glands in your body, and that can be cancer causing. So very, very dangerous are those chemicals, especially if you're breathing them in. So all of those toxins in our environment will irritate our membranes. So we'll end up with asthma, congestions, itchy eyes and headaches, hay fever, itchy skin, sinus problems. And that'll affect our brain and our memory as we breathe things in. So if there's pollution toxicity affecting you, once again, you can avoid a lot of it. And it's just a matter of being careful with your water, your home products, and try and do the best you can do with your environment and to try and keep it toxin and chemical free. There's two more little things I thought I should mention. When we get the food toxicity, often we end up with parasites and candida and things developing in our gut. And we want to get rid of those as well. So that's part of what we do with what we're going to suggest tonight, is get rid of those parasites and control candida. And the last one, but not least, is acidosis. Now, chronic acidosis is acid accumulating in your body's tissues. And it happens as we get older because our lungs and our kidneys control the acid in our body. And as we get older, they struggle. Not only that, but we load our body up with acid with the food we eat, particularly with too much protein and meat and sugar. That really loads the body up with acid. And so a combination of those two things can lead to these symptoms. If you experience any of these problems, then it's acid accumulating in your body. So it's mostly pain, lots of pain, but also the stones. Osteoporosis, your body dumps calcium and magnesium out of the bones when there's acid accumulation in your body. So by alkalizing your body, you can solve a lot of these issues too, which is also part of what we're going to suggest tonight. So we got to the end of the toxic problem, and this is just a list of basically everything we've covered, and you can see this is what your body's got to deal with. Isn't it incredible? I think it's amazing that we can survive as long as we do with all that we throw at our bodies. So what we need to do is avoid putting those things in our body, and then use very good, healthy, healing substances to heal the body at the same time. So we avoid the toxic substances and we super nourish ourselves. And that's the simplest way to heal ourselves. So just in summary, what they're not telling us, and this is what the system is not telling us, the health system, the media, our doctors, the people that should be telling us. They should be telling us this information, and they're not. The biggest epidemic in the world is metabolic disease. And all of those symptoms that we talked about, all those symptoms of toxicity, are the signs. They're the signs that our metabolism is becoming toxic. And ultimately, we're going to have metabolic disease, metabolic syndrome. And that causes the leading fatality, the leading causes of fatality and death, the biggest killers. And it's as simple as chips. Processed food, fats and sugar, chemicals and drugs. We need to stay away from them. Ultimately, our body will heal itself. It's mostly diet, and it's pollution related. And so, do you think drugs are going to help? Drugs won't solve the problem. In fact, they add to the problem. Adding toxins to poison. That's basically what they're doing. So this is decision time, really. What I'm suggesting here is we take a completely different path when it comes to healing ourselves. No matter what the condition, at this point, there's still an alternative. For most of us, there's an alternate path we can go down. Now, what I want to do here is just load up our program offer. Now, you'll see it pop up on the right of your screen, and there's a download now button. And this is the Herbal Health Program. So if you click on the download now, it should open another window and you can get the free ebook. Basically, it's an ebook that you can have a read of in your own time. So what is the alternative? What I'm going to suggest is the simplest way to heal yourself of just about everything on that list. Well, pretty much everything on that list that we've talked about tonight. And you might have heard of Occam's razor. Basically says the simplest answer is most often correct. And I think what's happened with our system and our health system has become, you need to hop in a rocket that can go to Mars because your cholesterol is high. They can't see the forest for the trees. It's not rocket science. It's pretty simple. The answer is simple. The simplest thing in the world. Here's an example of it. Plant-based diets reduce metabolic disease. It's been proven. And we'll give you the links later on. We'll give you the links to all the information. Plant-based diets reduce medications. And that's been proven as well. You can get off most of your medications by simply going on a plant-based diet. The most amazing, powerful, healing medicines in the world are plants. It's like made by God. The herbs contain all the compounds and chemicals that our body needs. In fact, 25% of the pharmaceuticals are extracted from plants because they know that's where the healing comes from. But the problem is that they make it artificially instead of using the actual plant or the herb. Organic food has up to 10 times the nutrients. They've studied plants that have been grown organically, and they contain literally up to 10 times the trace elements, the iron in the spinach, for example, the vitamins and minerals. They're much, much higher in organic food. And you're also avoiding all the chemicals. They found 90% of the food in supermarkets, and your conventional supermarkets, are covered in pesticides and residues and chemicals and sprays. So even though the food safety authorities say they're okay to eat, they still have those pesticides and chemicals on them. Fasting can reduce disease process, improving outcomes of heart attack, diabetes, stroke, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So these are the leading causes of death. Simple fasting for 12 hours at a time on an intermittent basis has been proven to help brain function and reduce all these symptoms of metabolic disease. So I'm suggesting the simplest solution to all of these health problems is detoxification, because our detoxification program involves vegetarian diet, organic food, fasting, and herbs, medical herbs. And I'm going to show you what those herbs are in just a minute. So natural herbal detox program is what I suggest. And the 100,000 people that have done this program, that have done our program over the last 20 years, have proven it. They've proven that all of these things are reduced. And we've got all the evidence to back it up. So if you want to really make a difference with your health, I suggest doing it, a herbal detox, once every 12 months or once every 6 months if you're in the stages of wanting to reverse something. Once every 12 months is prevention, and in between times, do your intermittent fasting, your vegetable diet, organic food, and perhaps add in some herbs along the way. But this is what it can do. Provide you with the foods and the herbs, because the program gives you the booklet with all the recipes and everything you need to stick to the plan, basically. Cleanse your liver, cleanse your colon, get all that digestive gunk out of the system, cleanse residues and get the fatty liver cleansed, get the cholesterol and the blood sugar and the blood pressure and all those things sorted out. Give yourself a parasite cleanse and deal with candida as well. And it gives you a high fiber diet full of enzymes and alkalizing food. So that's what the program includes. And it also comes with 24 herbs. So the program I'm going to suggest comes with these herbs. Now what I'm going to do now is just show you a little video which shows you the herbs that we use, that I use in the program that we're suggesting. So I'll just play you this little video now.
Brett Elliott, ultimate herbal. Brett Elliott, ultimate herbal detox. Brett Elliott, ultimate herbal slim. Brett Elliott, ultimate herbal detox and slim. Brett Elliott, ultimate herbal. Brett Elliott, ultimate herbal detox. Brett Elliott, ultimate herbal slim. Brett Elliott, ultimate herbal detox and slim. Brett Elliott, ultimate herbal detox and slim.
Hey, welcome back. So that's the 24 herbs that we supply in the pack, and that's the Herbal Detox program. Basically, what we've done is we've selected 24 herbs. Sorry, I jumped the gun there. We've selected 24 herbs and we've put them into 4 different products. So that what you've got there is a 14-day program with a booklet that gives you all the recipes for all the foods that we suggest, the vegetable, organic foods, fruit and vegetables that you do while you're on a detox diet. And then we've given you the 4 products in a pack. So what you've got there is 120 capsules in each bottle. And one is a colon cleanser. So that's got your anti-parasitic herbs, your colon cleansing herbs, and that helps to control the yeast and the candida and all those sorts of things and get rid of parasites. The second one, the digest aid, that's for soothing and healing and calming the digestive system while the detox is taking place, so it's nice and comfortable. And then we've got a liver food product which has the heavy metal detoxing herbs, the cilantro and the chlorella, and also the herbs for cleansing your liver and helping protect your liver from chemical damage that may have happened. That helps with the cholesterol and everything in your, as well as fatty liver in your liver. Then we've got the bulking fibre, and that's also known to reduce cholesterol, but it bulks up in your system with healthy fibre for your bowels, and it also helps you with food cravings if you're quitting some of those foods that we spoke about earlier, going on to the fruit and vegetables. And so basically what happens over the 14 days is you've got to take the capsules twice a day, morning and night, and follow the I'm going to give you the user guide so you can see exactly what to do. So if you just watch on the right hand side, you'll see the Ultimate Detox user guide pop up, and this is what you've got to follow. So it's the user guide that gives you the actual recipe book and how the program works. It shows you the dosage plans and everything, so you can download that little ebook, and that'll let you see inside the pack basically what comes inside the pack with those herbs. So it's a really simple process. It's just a matter of following the recipes and taking the herbs twice a day. But what will happen is when you do the program is you're having raw organic food, no additives, no chemicals. You're taking the herbs which protect and nourish and cleanse the internal workings of your body. So all of those symptoms, all of those irritating problems are alleviated. And we give a 100% guarantee. You can see that list. It's an A to Z. Anything on that list should be reduced or alleviated. We don't guarantee a cure because it's something that we're not allowed to do, but we do guarantee satisfaction with some reduction or alleviation of your problem. And so what that will do is it'll give you confidence. The whole idea of doing a detox is to give you confidence to make you see that there is potential to do something to improve your health and to make you feel better. And I do it religiously every 6 months because I want to stay in shape and in good health. And by doing that, you should be able to get a blood test every couple of years and say your cholesterol, your blood pressure, and your blood sugar are all where they should be. And that's what we want. We don't want to be put on any medications. Ultimately, that's what it's all about. So you live a long, healthy life. And I do have a video of somebody here that's done the program. I'll show you. It's a little testimonial. And I'll just play this for you now. Here we go.
I'm in the detox program and I'm losing very well and hope to keep going, and we'll go on to the slim one shortly.
And what have you achieved in the last few weeks?
Since being on the detox, 21 kilos lost.
Wow. And how long have you been on it now?
10 weeks.
10 weeks. That's amazing. And how are you feeling?
Good.
You're going to keep going?
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. And
Yes.
what was your name?
Maxine Henderson.
Maxine.